Well, it used to be that the lieutenant governor would run independently on a different ticket, and now the laws have changed so that the lieutenant governor is picked by the gubernatorial candidate. And this is a great thing because the public knows that should anything ever happen to your governor, well, ideally the lieutenant governor has worked as the governor's partner. And this is where I envision myself. Bruce and I will be partners. We'll be traveling the state, and wherever he cannot be, I hope to be there, being able to tell people about our agenda and spread the same message throughout. Of course, I work at the behest of the governor, and so other job descriptions that Bruce gives me, I'll be proud to serve. And I know that as Lieutenant Governor, right now I'd have to sit before the Rural Affairs Commission. I'd be manning that, and it would be my great honor and pride, because as I've traveled the state of Illinois, a lot of the farmers feel left out and ignored, so I welcome that too. Well, some commentators have said that I'm a lightweight and inexperienced. Well, you know, if that's what they mean by not being a Springfield insider, then I welcome that commentary. Bruce Rauner is an outsider. He comes into it with his business acumen and his business background, and I believe he'd be a great fit for the state of Illinois. As far as I'm concerned, my primary job is being a mom to 3 small children. My parents lived the American dream. I'm first generation. And my mom, as you probably know, she's from Cuba, my dad's from Ecuador. They lived it. I lived the American dream too, but going forward, the way the state is going, I can't say my kids or your kids will be able to live the American dream here. And so I'm a full-time mom. I'm a councilwoman in the city of Wheaton. I've been so for the last 4 years, and we're very proud to say we're a AAA bond-rated city. It is with this government know-how that I'm coming in as Lieutenant Governor. Also, too, I'm an adjunct professor of law at the John Marshall Law School. I'm a practicing attorney, and I'm the chairwoman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of DuPage County. So I do a lot of Hispanic outreach, which is very much needed in our party. So in other words, I may not have the sort of resume that your career politician has, but I stand very proud with my sort of background and everything I've gone through in life to achieve this honor to be running, and I stand on my background and I'm very proud of it. And even though, again, I'm not a Springfield insider, I know I have the wherewithal to be just as effective, if not more. Well, of course, my background brings a lot to the office. Bruce Rauner chose a female. Bruce Rauner chose a Latina. You know, just the other day, I heard about Pat Quinn doing this sort of experiment where he was going to be living off of the minimum wage for a few days, and I found that to be so offensive, because growing up, I know what it is to live below the minimum wage. I know what it is to be on public aid. I know what it is to be on food stamps. And it was never a game to us to be going through that sort of thing. And you know what? The poor going to fast food stops and thinking it's a joke to order a cheap burger because you're living off of the minimum wage. Well, guess what? If you know what it is like to be poor, you know that going to fast food joints, that's a luxury. We don't do that. I didn't do that as a poor person. You know, when we were on public aid, we sought for sales, and we lived off of that same dish for the rest of the week because it's all we could afford. So seeing stuff like that just really takes me aback. I'm taking you back to the 70s, and my father's side of the family came in from Ecuador, my mother's side from Cuba. At the beginning, I remember always living one step ahead of the landlord. I lived in many apartment buildings. I remember that my parents did whatever it took to try to put food on the table. I remember the fear, because even though I couldn't do anything to help them in the way of getting a job, I didn't know where my next meals would come from or where I'd be living in the next few days, because we were always in different apartment buildings. I know Mom worked at a sewing machine. I know that anytime she could clean a home, she did so. And those are my memories of childhood. So Again, I come at it from a completely different perspective. I believe I could see for everyone. I know what immigrants are going through trying to get by in the state of Illinois because I went through it myself. And just having gone through all of these experiences, I believe it just makes the ticket a fairer ticket, Bruce Rauner and I, because we've seen so much. I've gone through so much, and I feel that I could empathize with everyone far better than, of course, the opposition. Well, you know, I never thought politics had a place for me. I was never interested. I was just fine being a mother of 3 incredible kids and being a full-time attorney and an adjunct professor of law. But you know, life does have a funny way of changing. And so in 2007, I took a fall on my way to the metro train station. And I had a very horrible accident. And I had to undergo surgery. I guess good things come out of bad things. I found out during that point in time that I had multiple sclerosis. Wasn't caused by the accident, just aggravated by the accident. But that's where I found out I had multiple sclerosis. So I had to battle that. And it was during that time that I thought, why aren't we taking care of our sidewalks? I know I'm paying taxes and all I wanted to do was get to work. And so my husband told me, well, rather than feeling sorry for yourself because you now have multiple sclerosis, why don't you get involved? And why don't you make sure that the citizens of Wheaton have safe sidewalks and good roads? And I think that something positive came out of something really bad. But yeah, that was my mission. I'm the infrastructure girl, and in Wheaton they actually call me the sidewalk lady because it's what got me to run, an accident on a sidewalk. And yeah, I'm very proud of my city. We're AAA bond rated now. We've created a backdrop for businesses to come in and grow, and that's exactly how I want to help the state of Illinois. We need to become inviting to businesses rather than punitive to businesses. Wow, 2007. So I had a cervical fusion, area C1, C2. They had to stick in some titanium screws and rods to immobilize my range of motion by about 6%. Yeah, this is why a lot of times people are saying, why do you have to turn your whole body to address me? Well, it's because my neck is fused. But you know, I always look at the positive, and positive things did come out of something really horrible. So yeah, my neck is fused, and I'm kind of like C3PO, but I'm positive, and I turned a negative into a positive. There are so many issues because we're 54,000 residents, and everything day to day, taxation for them, their roads, police and fire, union issues, that negotiations and stuff like that we have to be mindful of the taxpayer every day. We want to have a vibrant downtown, and so we need to make sure that we have a great mix of businesses in our downtown, a good mix of housing. So we do just about everything. I mean, from the point where a neighbor is upset that a fence was erected between his house and his neighbor's house. You know, local government is very, very involved in so many different ways. I'd have to say that what are the big issues? Well, when I decided to run, as I was going door to door, there was a gentleman that asked me what I was going to do for the residents of Courthouse Square. And being the sort of person that didn't like to talk out of the side of my neck, I wanted to study the issue because I did not know about their plight. And apparently the developer had promised these people to, that he'd deliver single-family housing and that it would be a wonderful area. They were gutting out the old courthouse. Well, in came the recession, so the developer told these people after they were already living there, but it was half-built, that he had changed his mind. And I thought that it was very important to think about the residents of Courthouse Square and that the developer do right by his promise. One of the other major things is Mariano's. There was a school on Roosevelt, and people were wondering, what do we do with this site? And a lot of people said, well, maybe a Costco. and the decision was, no, we don't want that in our smaller type of town. And then a lot of people were saying, well, give it to the parks, keep it as open green areas. And my idea was, well, we need the revenue, so why don't we do a grocery store with half of the land use going to our parks and water retention? And so that's something I'm very proud of, because I was very much an advocate for bringing that Mariano's and having that sort of marriage going on. And right now we're very proud of that site, and it's a big income generator. And we also have green space and space dedicated to our parks. Well, you folks know I have MS. And it's one of those qualifying diseases where potentially I could have medical marijuana. But I'll have you know that I don't think I'll ever have a need for it, because my disease was detected early. When the idea was first being rolled around, I had asked my neurologist, I was like, wow, so I guess I could get medical marijuana now. And he said, not on your life, actually. You never want to be able to qualify, because those that do are in really bad shape. And I felt kind of bad about even asking the question. So, of course, for personal reasons, I am for medical marijuana. You know, the state of Illinois is very strict upon who could receive it and what sort of measures you have to take to receive it. I think it's being closely monitored. And so for those reasons, and again, you had asked me before, you know, what does this difference you and Rauner bring to the ticket? Well, that's a difference right there. And I know that's your follow-up question, because Bruce is different in his views in that regard. And I bring the other light, which is, you know, I have this condition, and I am no one to tell somebody who's in pain and suffering from a debilitating disease and possibly on his way out of earth that he cannot feel relief. So I am not objectionable to medical marijuana for those reasons. Well, as an attorney, decriminalizing is a very severe word. If what you mean by saying decriminalizing is taking it from a felony to a lesser criminal charge, then the answer would be yes. But when I hear the word decriminalize, I think just not making it, finding it in the criminal code altogether, and I would be objectionable to that. Again, if it's taking it from one part, like a felony, to a lower sort of crime, it's something that I'd be willing to look at, because there is the theory that our police officers would be in a better position to fight bigger crimes or harsher crimes if they're not arresting people for things such as marijuana use. As far as our vision of the true pension fix, you know, retirees, so they're concerned, and they've been hearing all this fiction about, well, are Bruce and Evelyn, are they going to take away all of our benefits? We're retired. And the answer is no. I mean, from a contractual standpoint, from a constitutional standpoint, it's simply no. Retirees, you've been made promises, you relied upon those promises, and we will honor that. So there are those people who are presently in the system, right? And they're worried too, because they've worked and they have certain accruals that they've made over the years. And so, and they've done their planning based upon their belief on these accruals. And so they're wondering, well, is that going to be taken away from us? Of course, based upon all these rumors. Again, the answer is no. As a matter of fact, what we have to offer gives you more than what Pat Quinn had to offer in the way of his alleged pension fix, which is being challenged now in the courts. And what we have to say to those people that are presently working and have accumulated certain benefits and such, and we have to say, we will honor that. We will honor that. But we will also freeze, and going forward, we will transition into a defined contribution sort of program. And that's something in the way of a 401k, or something that looks a lot like it. You know, having been an attorney for Travelers Insurance for the last 10 years, I could tell you that my employer offers me a 401k, and I've been able to contribute. My employer makes its contributions too. I could control it, and I know it'll be there when I retire. So that's our vision. Honor, freeze, going forward, transition to a second type of pension. It'll take a really long time to get out of that, this pension mess that we're in, but at least we'll pass constitutional muster. very easy to reconcile. So make no bones about it. Mom chose to have me and to keep me at age 15 at a time where it was very easy to do the opposite. So for that reason, personally, I am pro-life and very thankful that Mom chose life for me. Bruce Rauner is the sort of person that believes that abortion is regretful, but it's a choice to be made between the person who is pregnant, her doctors, and the people in her faith, her congregation, and that decision should be left up to them. Bruce Rauner's never tried to talk me out of my position, nor have I tried to talk him out of his position. You know why? Because we do not have a social agenda. We're running on a purely fiscal economic agenda. Right now, our state is going down the tubes, worst pension crisis in the nation, unemployment rate skyrocketing. I sound like a broken record, but we have so many problems, and they're fiscal in nature that's where our focus is going to be on. And maybe in a few years it's a talk we could have, but during the time that Bruce and I serve, let me tell you, our agenda is a purely fiscal one. I'm all about education reform. Clearly, I was saved by a magnet school. I failed the first grade because growing up in poor neighborhoods, I felt unchallenged. I felt like my teachers weren't inspired with me. I wasn't inspired with them. And it wasn't until I was able to test into a magnet school that all sorts of opportunities in life opened up for me. So I am all for giving the power back to the parents and the students in these underserved communities, because I lived in an underserved community. Bruce Rauner and I firmly believe that every child in Illinois deserves a world-class education, and it shouldn't matter how much your parents make or what your zip code is. So because of that, in underserved communities, I do believe that reform must be had in many ways. One of them is charter schools. Another thing is vouchers. We're okay with that as long as the power is back with the students and the teachers. You know, I think, and this is where I put on my hat as a councilwoman in a city, and I do believe that certain questions must be left to the cities to determine whether that's what they want in their local communities. So in Wheaton, I do not believe that casinos, that those would be a good choice for Wheatonites, but I can't speak for the rest of the other units of government in the state of Illinois, and because of that, I believe it should be a local government type of question. Ooh, you're going to get another very loaded answer, even though your question was a short question. So I'm going to take you back to circa 2010. And Governor Quinn raised the income tax significantly, right? I remember him telling us that this income tax hike, even though it was a really big income tax hike, it would be, you know, it would help us because we'd be able to pay for education. And we'd be able to pay for all our bills because we have a huge backlog because his partner, Governor Blagojevich, had gone to jail and left everything in disarray. And so Governor Quinn, as his lieutenant governor, said, this is the only way I could solve these two problems, right? And so now he wants to make this temporary income tax permanent, right? And so I asked the people of Illinois, did he actually help education by taxing us more? No, actually he took away $500 million from education. So even though, you know, we paid out more as taxpayers, we did not see a change. Actually, we saw a decrease in education funding. And then ask yourselves, well, what about these back paid bills that he was telling us about in 2010? Did he pay all of those bills with this huge increase? And, you know, last time I checked, I think we still owe about $8 billion. That's not a typographical error. That's not a Scrivener's error. I mean, that's a big gap. So an income tax increase, am I in favor of it? No, because did it help out when it was first proposed? No, actually we're in more trouble now. So actually Bruce Rauner and I, what we believe in is not taxing our way out of our problems. We need to grow our way out of our problems. And we have many ideas in that regard if you're willing to entertain them. Bruce Rauner and I unveiled a plan where we wanted to broaden the tax base so that we could keep taxes low, right? Because right now we're facing a huge income tax hike that Governor Quinn wants to make permanent. So we want to take it back over the next 4 years. We want to take it back to that 3% we used to have in 2010. And we could do that. We could do that by broadening the tax base and taxing certain services, not all services. I know the opposition has spoken about us wanting to tax medicine. Well, that's not the case at all. Actually, what we're thinking about is taxing things that are deemed more of a luxury type of thing, and that's what we support. And it broadens the tax base, and over the next 4 years, we could see our income taxes go all the way down to 3%. Oh, no, absolutely not, because over the next 4 years, our plan is to be back to a 3% income tax rate. So we believe in growing our way out of our problems rather than taxing our way out of our problems. As far as driving people and businesses out, I submit that it's been Pat Quinn's administration that has driven businesses out. You know, just this year alone, we've lost 4,200 jobs. I mean, he's outsourcer extraordinaire. We've lost a ton of businesses. Businesses are leaving to neighboring communities, and that's why you're seeing signs all over Illinois. Our neighboring states are laughing at us, asking businesses whether they're Illinois yet. And you know why? Because we're punitive to businesses, and that's why they leave. Private sale of firearms. Okay, so this brings so much into the picture because I live in the suburbs, and above all, I am a mother. So I know the whole concern as a mother with firearms, but I also know about our constitutional right to bear arms. And so you always want to balance that and find the happy medium. And I do believe that there are certain mindful, responsible restrictions that we could have. And those restrictions are in the form of background checks. We certainly don't want firearms to make it to the hands of criminals. We don't want firearms to make it into the hands of the mentally infirm. So again, reasonable restrictions we're actually very open to taking a look at, but also being mindful that, you know, there may be some constitutional court challenges because we do have a constitutional right to bear arms. It's the law. It's the law. I support the law. I mean, I'm an attorney. I'm supposed to follow the law.
You personally, I mean, the attorney hat aside.
I don't know that I could ever take that hat off. I drink the attorney Kool-Aid, okay? So I support the law as it stands. Bruce and I have no intentions of changing the laws. As a matter of fact, right now, our plan is on those 4 points I mentioned before: lowering the tax burden on Illinois families, term limits, school reform, and business retention and growth here in the state of Illinois. Yes, along with other measures to go with that. So in order to have a wage, you need an employer. But if businesses are leaving the state of Illinois, you may not have this component. Therefore, you have no wage at all. Okay? So what Bruce and I propose is this: raise the minimum wage to $10. We're comfortable with that. But also, we need some measures put in place so that employers could come here and pay us these higher wages. So how do we do that? Well, we do that by tort reform. We do that by true workers' compensation reform. We do that by lightening up on all these burdens we put on these businesses, by over-regulating them. So we take a look on how they're being over-regulated, take a look at the books, try to make sure that all the laws that are in place are there to help businesses come here and stay here and thrive, rather than make it difficult for businesses to get permits and to do what they need to do. Of course, being mindful of our environment and everything, but make sure that they're not being over-regulated. And also taking a look at the tax burden to businesses. Right now, we're taxing them to the hilt, and this is why they're leaving to neighboring states. So if we put these measures in place where businesses could actually come here, grow here, and pay higher salaries, then we could have that $10 minimum wage salary. And we could have both, and we believe in both.